समुद्रितं येन तस्मै वसिष्ठाय गुरुणाम गुरवे नमः। वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। सद्गुरु भगवान की जय। सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। शब्द ब्रह्म की जय। सरस्वती महारानी की जय। जोग वशिष्ठ जी भगवान की जय। हरि ओम। We are discussing Yoga Vasishtha Nirvana Prakaran, first half and 80th chapter, where our great Guru Vasishtha Ji is explaining everything in detail to Rama, the disciple, all about the spacewalking. How does one walk in this space? It was the question of Rama. To answer of Rama, he explains all these. The question was on the topic of how it is possible for the realized souls, when they are totally, absolutely established in the self, which is the absolute equilibrium, it becomes possible for them to work in or activate in relative world. Relative world means there should be the doer, doing process, and done object. How it is possible? It is only possible if one moves, but that is not possible for a realized soul, because he is ever established on the non-moving being, non-moving state. So how he can move his body, senses, and all these mind and prana, so that he will be able to activate, to do something. It is simply contradictory to each other. So it is not possible. For this question, now Vasishtha Ji explains everything to Rama. It is possible. And there are so many ways to have success in any undertaking. To reach any goal, to have success, there are so many methods, not one. By the grace of Guru, by the grace of scriptures, and by the help of some influential stones, medicines, and by acquiring power by penance, japa, and meditation, and so many methods are there by tantra, yantra, mantra, and by help of other means also, one can have success in any undertaking, not only spacewalk. So he was explaining everything to Rama by the way. If one gets understanding of all these, then his mind will be diverted. His means the mind of a seeker, a sincere seeker who wants to have realization of the self, who wants to be established on the absolute truth. His mind will be diverted for these pretty powers of the relative world. So Vasishtha was hesitating to explain everything, and still then, when he heard the idea, the seeker will be discouraged if I don't explain all the clues to him. So he tried to explain one part of it. That is, by practicing pranayam, one can have this success. Pranayam, to explain pranayam, one has to go to very deep into the matter. What is prana? Where from it comes? How does it activate? What does it do? And who are the instruments to whom this prana gives a momentum to activate? So naturally we have to come to the body and the senses, the mind, fourfold mind, all these we have to understand in detail. Then only we can understand something about prana and its activities, its purpose, and its origin, and its end. All these one should understand in detail, then only he can practice pranayam and he can have success. So in order to explain all these, Vasishtha was explaining about Kundalini power, the absolute supreme power which is named as Kundalini and which is also a form of the pranayam, prana. He was explaining everything to Rama, whatever we have seen up to date. You see, the absolute power, the universal power, supreme nature of the absolute. Nature means its expression, its projection, its appearance, its some kind of, you see, we can say expression will be the best word. It expresses itself. That expression is called nature or its qualities. So that qualities is nothing but its power. So the supreme power that expresses means it has to be active. If it is absolutely steady, there cannot be any expression. The experience when expressed, that is called the nature of the object. So that is how we understand the supreme power. So when the Absolute wants to express itself, to whom it should express? It is absolutely one. So how can it express? This expression is to himself only. That means there is no expression but some assumption of expression. It is not really expression. Relatively, we understand our expression each for others, not for oneself. So when there is two, when there is a relative understanding, there are two, there will be relationship between the two. One will be understood by the other, so that is called influence or expression or relationship or its qualities. In many ways we name it and understand it. So when there is absolutely one, how can it express to whom? So it is only imagination, and that too when we understand its real state, then we may have these ideas. It is in itself. There is no outside of it. So it should have an identity of I. Let me have some ideas about myself. If these ideas will appear somehow or other, then one has to have the ID, I, and then when I is there, then naturally there will be some relationship with something that is my. So this I and my within itself. And for example, when we see our own body as the body, as I, body as I, then the body itself has so many parts of it, relatively. So the body sees the body. Body expresses itself to itself in different parts. That means I want to see myself means I want to see myself as my different parts of it. That is called senses. Some senses of action, some senses of knowledge, collecting some information about something in myself. How is the hand? Hand is a part of the body, and it is body only, and body sees the hand by the body, by the means of the body, and the body itself is seen by the body. And all these are only imaginations within itself. There is nothing reality in it. In this way, when the Absolute wants to see itself or to know itself by forgetting itself, somehow or other some ideas appear, then that is called the expression of itself, that is called its nature, that is called its the power or qualities. So these qualities are seen in the beginning as in threefold ways. That is called Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. We have named it. And these names are false. In reality, there is no name, there is no quality, nothing. It is only based upon imaginations. Let it be imagination, but relatively we have value for it. So we have named it as the supreme power, and that also when it activates, it moves, it expresses itself within itself, that is also named as nature, the supreme power, and the prana also, that is also the prana, and that is also named as mind, the thinking power or the imaginations or sankalpa vikalpa, and that is in fourfold ways, and that also has some shapes and sounds. And that's how it has to see itself in fivefold ways. That they are called five tanmatras, the units of experiencing itself by itself. Five tanmatras, five units of measuring itself or knowing itself. So when it expands itself within itself, then they are called five basic elements. And units are the when expanded, they are called five elements. And in this way, this world is imagined by it within itself. So now we have some idea about the prana, the supreme power, and that is here body-wise it is present individually in every being, and that prana power is named when it is seen in the individual bodies, in the basic parts of the body. It is known as Kundalini Shakti, that's all. And it is prana only. So the prana has to activate. It will be in a dormant state in the beginning, and when it is hammered by itself, there is no other being here. Don't bring anybody else here. There is none else. So when it imagines of itself, it activates in a particular way within itself, and that prana within prana. So prana itself is Kundalini, and when it activates, it is called prana again. Kundalini and prana, two different terms we have now. And that prana also again is seen in different ways. So prana and apana. Because when we see something or express something or perceive something relatively, then there must be always divisibility. one cannot see the one in one, because the seer, seen and seeing process should be there, then only this relative understanding we can have. There should be some seer, some seeing process, and then seen object. Though it is within itself, yet all these types of imaginations should be there. Then only it will be supported by itself. So, the prana itself activates within itself, it is called prana again. First, when it is in dormant state, it is called kundalini. And when it activates, it is called prana. And when it still more activates within itself, it is called apana. Vasishtha ji explaining everything in a relationship with the body. In every individual body, this power is there, and in the basic state, in the basement of the body, so body's base is naturally the place of anus. It holds the whole body. So at that place, it is placed in a circular way, in a round way. So it is 3.5 rounds, and it is called in a shape of a snake, as if somebody, we see some children in severe winter days, they sleep in a round way, so that to overcome cold, covering something and closing the knees to the chin. So in this way, the snake is in a sleeping. Yes. So in that way, in a dormant state, the Kundalini power is established in the basic portion of the body, that is the near the anus, and it is called Muladhar, the base, the basement, the substratum. And there, when it activates fast, it is called prana. It expresses out, projects out, that is called prana. When it withdraws it again, naturally there will be always relatively one will be opposite to the other. So when it is projected out, then naturally it will have to withdraw within. So prana and apana, prana will be upward and apana will be downward. So in this way we have to imagine prana and apana. So naturally, of course, the substratum is known as Muladhar, but the center will be heart. Then we come to the center, heart. So heart was being explained by Vasishtha to Rama, where this all activities start. Heart is nothing but a space where there is no movement. So it is known as sky. And sky means, of course, something as space, but there is no movement. And when there will be movement, then that is called prana. So naturally, so now the complication starts, whether the center is the center of heart is the center of prana, or that Muladhara is center of prana. This complication should be clarified. Yesterday we saw, जब हृदय में स्थित प्राणवायु कुंडलिनी से आकृष्ट होकर अपान वृत्ति द्वारा कुंडलिनी पद को प्राप्त होता है, तब अपंचीकृत भूतों से जनित अंतःकरण में विद्यमान जीव संबित स्मृति, संकल्प, अध्यवसाय, अभिमान, राग आदि वृत्तियों के भेदों से अंदर उदित होती है। उदित होना मीन्स it appears. What is appearance? It is only imagination. Don't think something is happening really. In this way, everything is imagined. So now, a clue I shall give you. If everything is imagined, so as you think, so it appears. So this is the key for all the complications, all the problems. Whatever you think, that is for you. As you think, so it appears to you, and so it is for you. And then the question comes, what is then ignorance and what is then knowledge? If I think everything, then I cannot be ignorant. Everything is for me. You see, ignorance is manyness and knowledge is oneness. So if you are always restless, you are thinking something, you are ignorant. If you are not thinking anything, and you are resting all the time, then you are a wise man. So simple. Why to bring complications? If you are restless in thinking and getting nothing, of course, as you think, so it appears to you, and so it is for you. But it is not one only. You think in so many complicated ways that you are bewildered to decide what is what. So that is called ignorance. And if you accept something to be true steadily without changing it, that is called truth. Truth is everywhere. If you are steady in your decision, not changing, that is called truth. Then if you are not changing, then you are a man of wisdom. So simple, why complications? As you think, so you have, so you get it, so you see it. But that is called ignorance also, because you don't think one way. You think so many ways. You contradict yourself, you see not yourself, you don't know yourself. So all these are called ignorance only. And you cannot claim that you know yourself. And if you know one thing without changing it, that is called truth. You are a wise man. You have decided thoroughly, once for all, not to be changed. So in this way, now let us see that heart or the Muladhar, when we come to the center, of course without center there cannot be anything, and center also will be only one unchanging axis around which the whole activities will go on. So center is a must which is absolutely one, and that is called Anuraniyan Mahato Mahyan. There is no comparison for it. So if you compare, it will be smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest. So in this way, the center is called also the heart. Absolute state of equilibrium. So there, if at all by your somewhat imaginary process you want some movement is seen there, that is called prana. So it should be in the center. And when it expands all round way in all directions, that is naturally it should be placed somewhere to activate, and that is called Muladhar. Wherever it is, however it is. जब हृदय में स्थित प्राणवायु, हृदय में स्थित प्राणवायु means, of course it is named as Kundalini and it is prana. The movement in the non-moving center, which is apparently seen, not really there, that is called prana. And when it activates, then it cannot be steady, and when it is drawn downward, that is called apana, and that is placed in the Kundalini. It is named as Kundalini. कुंडलिनी पद को तब प्राप्त होता है, और अपंचीकृत भूतों से जनित अंतःकरण में, अपंचीकृत भूत, भूत means the basic elements by which the whole imaginary world is composed, the composing factors. So it will be in the beginning, it will be 1, then it will be 3, and then it will be 5, and then it will go on expanding itself, projecting itself. So 1 means the absolute truth, and that is also the supreme power in a steady position. When it activates it, it appears as 3, then they are called qualities, sattva, rajas, tamas, and when it wants to relate with itself, then it will be in 5 ways. Sabda, Sparsa, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. That means to see the form and to hear the sound and to smell the smell and to touch the form and to taste its taste. In this way, 5 units of perception, and then when they expand, then they are called 5 basic elements. The sound becomes the ether, that means the sky, and when it moves, then that will have a relationship with each other parts of itself. So that is called touch, and that is named as wind, and that is called as the basic principle of action, that is called power or energy, that is called prana. And then when there is friction, there will be heat and light, so that is called fire. And naturally there will be something as water, which is having a quality of liquidity or some movement also in it. And then the thickness of it is known as, say, earth. In this way, 5 basic elements, and they mix up with each other in different ratios, and then all these different names and forms are assumed or imagined. That is called Panchikrit. 5 mixing with 5 in different ways and becoming innumerable. And when these 5 are not mixed up with each other, they are differently seen. That is called apanchikrit 5 elements. Panchikrit means when they are mixed up with each other. अpanchikrit भूतों से जनित अंतःकरण. Of course, it is not panchikrit, but panch tanmatras will be there in the fourfold mind. Antakaran, the inner aspect. Karan means not steady, it inner activities. Inner activities we can say, antakaran, that is named as mind, intellect and ego and subconscious mind. Antakaran, which is not steady. Karan means it is not steady position. It has to be moving on. So mind also is a movement, intellect also similarly a movement, and ego also, and the subconscious mind also, chitta. So all these are not panchikrit, but the panch tanmatras, 5 units are there. In this way, when the combined group is known as Jiva Sambit, it understands itself to be somebody, that is called identity of itself, that is ego. that is I-ness, identity. So that is called Jiva Sambit, individual being. It forgets the whole totality. It has been divided, it has been away from the whole total form. Then only it understands itself as an individual being. In this way, it is limited and it starts activating in a limited way. And these fourfold mind or antakaran means inner activities. They are named as smriti. Smriti means memories. Memories of what? So from this you can understand the time starts not here. When there is relativity, there is time. When one becomes two, there is time. When comparison is there, when change is there, when counting is there, calculation is there, that is called time. Comparison, change, and divisibility, that is known as the process of time. Time is a process. It is never steady. So process means it has to go on in a round, because everything activating round the circle only, round this center only, so everything should be in an all-round way. So time also is like that, and then these fourfold inner activities, which is named as smriti. Smriti means memories, that also brings us the understanding. There is some time, and smriti means memory, means of the past only. So there is past and present and future. Naturally, it will be, time will be in this way. When one changes, so one after the other, that is named as past, present and future. And because divisibility is there, so everything will go on changing. So that is called the process of time. So smriti, the one will be, the past will be related with the future, and in between there will be some gap, that is called present. So in this way, that smriti is, it will not be one, it will be manifold. So that is when present in a dormant state, without activities but ready for acting. So that is called the chitta, the subconscious mind. It is ready to activate. It is, the tendency is there, momentum is there, the potency is there, but it is not yet activated. So that is called chitta, which is full of smritis only. Only the memories. And those memories are otherwise known as impressions. The subtle form of the forms, that is called impressions. And that is also in Sanskrit, it is called sanskaras, and smritis